All right, so that's the Cult DAO website, and had to go through it twice because the speech was so long. Where is that speech? What is that speech? That is a Charlie Chaplin final speech from the great dictator. And here it is. I'll put a link in the show notes. This is the actual speech. But there are some notes at the end that I thought were pretty interesting that I want to read out because it explains the lore and the choices that the people behind Cult DAO have made. As what are they referencing? What do they care about? Because this is establishing the culture of the DAO. The Great Dictator was Charlie Chaplin's first film with dialogue. Chaplin plays both a little Jewish barber living in the ghetto and Heinkel, the dictator ruler of Tomania. In his autobiography, Chaplin quotes himself as having once said, "One doesn't have to be a Jew to be anti-Nazi. All one has to do is be a normal, decent human being." Chaplin and Hitler were born within 1 week of another. There is something uncanny in the resemblance between the little tramp and Adolf Hitler, representing opposite poles of humanity, writes Chaplin biographer David Robertson, reproducing an unsigned article from The Spectator dated April 1st, 1939. Okay, uncanny resemblance between Little Tramp and Adolf Hitler representing opposite poles of humanity. This is where I think this really gets interesting. This is an interesting thing to tug on, and only somebody that deeply cares about history and references and values and making sure that humans don't repeat the cycles of the past would really pay attention to this. And so this is kind of where I started to get clued into who I think is behind Cult DAO. Apparently I'm wrong about that, but it's part of the story. To me, Cult DAO at this point, in my understanding, it's chaotic good. It's chaotic good. Where Hitler was lawful evil, Cult DAO is chaotic good. And so they are taking cult in, again, as a mimetic filter, and I'll explain what that is, to really just vet who actually cares about Cult DAO. And it's using this whole chaotic good. We're going to be decentralization maximalists. We're going to wear these cult masks. We're going to have these. We're going to do it anon. We're going to do it decentralized. We're going to do it from the bottom up. And it's going to really just, it's going to fight fire with fire. We're going to, whereas there's bad anons, but we are good anons. Where Hitler represents top-down totalitarian control of thought, control of a country. This is bottom up. This is order through chaos. This is goodness through chaos. I don't know. I thought it was elegant. I really like the lower parts of these things. A lot of the vibes out of Cult DAO come from the Cult DAO manifesto, which is what we'll get into next. I have my suspicions as to who is behind Cult DAO. It very much feels like a logical progression out of Moloch DAO. There are some control theory elements in this as well. The self-perpetuating cycle of the 4% tax into funding will always exist so long as the token is traded. The decentralization maxi elements is indication of somebody that I know in this industry. So is the writing in the manifesto. The manifesto, and I thought, left a lot of breadcrumbs as to who was behind this. My idea was that it was Amin Soleimani, who was the founder of Moloch DAO, who talks about cults and mimetic filters and stuff like this. I hit Amin up and it was like, yo, the Cult DAO manifesto has your fingerprints all over it, dude. And he was like, what's Cult DAO? And I sent him the link, and he was like, oh, this is cool. I like the memes, and declined being involved in it at all. So I guess I got, after that, I have no idea who Mr. Omodulis is, but the writing style I enjoy. I love the lore. I love the vibes about who's behind this and what this project is committed to. I thought it was Amin Soleimani. I told him, Amin, it's like, I want this to be you. And he says, it's not me, bro. So I got no clue. But it makes a lot, but it shares a lot of values of people that came in and were present in this crypto industry before the 2021 bull run, which gives me a little bit of trust in this project as well. So here it is. You can access it on the website. First off, love the word manifesto. Again, the word manifesto turns a lot of people off, except it turns people who are on the frontier, who are curious, on, and who are definitely mission driven. The word manifesto finds mission-driven people, I think. And so, good evening. Allow me to first apologize for this interruption. I do, like many of you, appreciate the comforts of everyday routine. Some people might be familiar with this. This is something out of V for Vendetta. Again, establishing the lore and the culture around Cult DAO. I don't need to read this out. You can go read it for yourself. Before we get any further into this, talking about mimetic filter is something that Amin gave out to the world. Moloch mimetic filter strong. And Cult DAO has a lot of similarities to Moloch DAO, which was one of the first DAOs that made DAOs cool again. It was an old grants giving DAO that all you would do is you would put Ether into the DAO and then you would vote to where to send Ether. It was in the depths of the bear market. The community, Amin Solmani particularly, realized that we need to fund our core devs, we need to fund our client teams, we need to fund Ethereum research, because if we don't, then Ethereum won't be worth anything at all. So Moloch DAO was formed in like late 2018, early 2019 as just a grants giving DAO. There was no upside here. It was about you put money in and then you vote on like which of these public goods do you want to vote for. And like Amin is a very controversial character. He turns a lot of people off, but he uses this thing as like what he calls a mimetic filter, as in like, can you get past the culture? Can you get past the memes to see what's actually true behind it? So if Moloch DAO, if like this whole satanic ritual thing like turns you off, maybe this isn't for you. But this was again one of the first DAOs that made DAOs cool again. It was the first DAO that people really like rallied behind and supported, and somebody called it the Model T of DAOs. And again, this is not an upside DAO. This was put your money in, and then we're going to donate it to public goods because we need to fund public goods in order to support the rest of us. What I'm getting, the vibes that I'm getting out of Cult DAO are very similar, and it's about sending out funding. But where Moloch is a grant giving DAO, Cult DAO is about like an investment DAO. It's trying to make number go up, and that's why it's captured way more attention than Moloch DAO ever did, and it's also coming around in 2022. By the time page 4 of the manifesto rolls around, you can start to see the author of the manifesto start to reveal some of their own personality, some of their own nature. And so it explains their thinking, talks about how beautiful Bitcoin is because of its pure, true decentralization, and how they've designed Cult to be equally decentralized, equally autonomous. And with this whole feedback mechanism coming from the 4.4% of fee on every single transaction with Cult token, again, we'll get into that. I'm saving the tokenomics for later because I know that's always the candy, so I'm putting it at the end. And so the V for Vendetta vibe, where like there's this crazy guy who's very just like mission driven and a little bit militant and rogue and behind the scenes and just wants to operate outside of the state. That same kind of like V for Vendetta vibe is like indoctrinated into this manifesto. So you got to read it for itself. But like, it gets a little crazy, and crypto people love crazy. At least I thought it was pretty interesting. And then there is the FAQ section, which is also available on their website. And we will get into that now. You can access the manifesto at cultdao.io/FAQs. It's actually pretty robust. Before I go into this one, I'll kind of just show how robust it is. There's just a lot of addressed questions, and some of the answers are really short, but some of them are really long. But basically, it actually does a pretty good job answering every single question that you might have about the project. This is the most important one. Where does the money invested come from, and how does Cult staking work? All right, we're going to dive into the tokenomics because we need to understand the tokenomics to understand how this flywheel works, how the Cult DAO gets energy, and how it like sustains itself into the future. The unique and compelling thing about the Cult token that I haven't seen anywhere else is that when you transfer Cult tokens, there is a 0.4% tax on every Cult token transaction. So if you do anything with the Cult token, if you transfer it from wallet A to wallet B, if you engage with a smart contract, if you do anything that transfers Cult token from wallet A to wallet B, 0.4% is taken on every single transaction. And so 0.4 of your Cult tokens is sent to the Cult DAO treasury. So just generalized economic activity puts money into the treasury. Any token transfer, any exchange on a DEX, anything, just like every time there's an ERC20 token on Cult, it goes into the treasury. So this 0.4 tax on every token is like the engine for the DAO. That's how money goes into the treasury, and then the DAO uses that treasury to invest in things. So the DAO treasury collects the fees, and then this is where the guardians come in. The top 50 dCULT owners, like delegated cult, staked cult. But when you stake your cult, you can get dCULT back. The top 50 dCULT token holders, whoever has the top 50 amount, can submit proposals for investment with investee wallet addresses included in the submission, right? And so this proposal goes to the community coming out of the guardians, basically, of which I'm one. And then proposals are put forward and then approved, but they are not paid out until the treasury comes back up to 15.5 ETH. And so for every 15.5 ETH that's raised, a proposal can be approved. if a proposal is approved, 13 ETH of the treasury goes to the proposal to fund the proposal. 2.5 of the 15.5 ETH gets bought to purchase Cult, and that Cult is burnt. So like for every single proposal that is funded, at least minimum 2.5 ETH is bought of Cult and then burnt. So I think this is like a mechanism to always ensure that there is some value capture, even if the proposal falls flat and like they don't make their money back. At least 2.5 ETH of Cult gets burnt. It's like the tax for every single proposal. Some Cult must get burnt. Then the people receiving that 13 ETH of like financing, of funding, it's like an investment firm that they go out and build their project, and then we'll go into the example that Cult DAO lists in the FAQ. I'm a little bit skeptical as to this model. Mainly, it's just because forcing the DAO that the Cult DAO has invested in to sell their token to buy Cult token kind of removes number go up exposure from Cult DAO, right? So like what if ABC token goes up a lot over the year and Cult DAO was selling it before it went up in price, right? So like it's a little bit like an investment firm, but it's forcing the other DAO to sell their token in order to buy Cult token, perhaps too early, perhaps without like too early. It's getting rid of the exposure before there was number go up potential. So you get a little bit of number go up because ABC DAO basically is dollar cost averaging into Cult over the vesting period. By the way, there's a maximum of 18 months vesting period according to the rules of the DAO. It's a little bit misaligned between the DAO that the Cult DAO finances, because getting money from Cult, if you're a DAO that's getting money from Cult, you're committing to Cult DAO dumping your token over like 12 to 18 months, right? So like, you don't want to receive investment from some organization that's always going to dump your token, even if it's just like a little bit of your token. But still, that's just my critique. There's plenty of rational cases for this, and also just the nature of Cult DAO is that gives you a lot more options. By the nature of what Cult DAO is, it can fund a lot more things than VCs can't. Like a lot of things could be funded out of Cult DAO that would never get funded out of VCs, and that's an opportunity for Cult DAO. The bull case for Cult DAO is that you can go to the Cult DAO for funding and you don't have to worry about the overhead of VCs or legal complexity or lawyers. You can just immediately get money from the Cult. And the Cult could fund more things that VCs really couldn't. And also, like, you could, in theory, just submit a proposal saying, hey, I think we should hold these tokens rather than buy the Cult token. Maybe we'll sell these tokens later rather than right now. Anyway, these are just my thoughts. Question: why can the Guardians vote? Why can't the Guardians vote and they can only propose proposals? And this is kind of where the ethos of Cult DAO is showing through. So the Guardians submit proposals but can't vote on investment proposals because, according to the values of Cult DAO, the power is in the people. The Cult DAO is stronger when the people are enabled. So all the Guardians can do is say, hey, people of Cult DAO, consider funding this. But because all the Guardians have an outsized token supply, they can't actually influence the vote. So it gives the power of financing and funding investments to the many, rather than the people that have a lot of the tokens. And so this is true to the nature of the ethos of cryptocurrency, where you push power into the margins, which in my mind is a +1 to the legitimacy of Cult DAO. Anyone can submit a proposal for Cult DAO. This is what the proposal page looks like. Got a name in the project, short description of the project, investment deck, white paper, etc., social media channels. And so this is available for you. If you want funding, if you have an idea, put in a work into a proposal, find a Guardian to like sponsor you, basically, to like represent you to the DAO. And then that's how you can get 13 ETH for your proposal. And so this is my role. Since I am a Guardian, if you have something that you would like to propose to Cult DAO, make a proposal. And if you need me to sponsor it, that is what I'm here to do. I'll take a look at it. I'll decide if it's legit or not. You can hit me up in DMs. Lead with something that's obvious about, here's my proposal for Cult DAO, because otherwise I'm going to ignore it because I am flooded with DMs all the time. But I'm a Guardian for Cult DAO, so it's my job to sponsor good proposals and bring them to the community. So that is what I will be doing. Here is the Cult DAO treasury, and you can see this is all of the transactions of Cult tokens, right? This is the 0.4% of all token transfers in Uniswap or SushiSwap or whatever exchange, or just normal transfers. You can see it coming in. And so there's already 6 million in treasury from the Cult token, I can't imagine that all came from token transfers. I think a much smaller supply actually came from token transfers. I think this treasury was bootstrapped initially. I'll put some links in the show notes to verify that. Yeah, there's so much inflows into the treasury just because of this 4% mechanism, right? So like, let's look at the most recent transaction. 48 seconds ago, $10 just from this 0.4%. $10 went into the treasury just from this normal transaction. Somebody, what did they do? They bought 0.748 Ether worth of Cult, and so that's $2,600. Somebody bought $2,600 worth of Cult, and as a result of that, $10 went into the Cult DAO treasury. This is kind of a genius funding model just because it's a small, like almost invisible tax to the Cult DAO treasury. So all economic activity ends up funding the Cult DAO. Let's pick another one. Let's see how much this one put into the treasury. Like, Uniswap transfer, $8 into the treasury. Let's find another one. $4,000 Uniswap trade, $16 into the treasury. Here's a big one. Somebody bought $25,000 worth of Cult, and that put $104 into the treasury. Let's try and find a super big one. Somebody sold 15 Ether for 824,000 Cult tokens, and that put $220 into the treasury, right? Just like, hey, do you want to trade and buy or sell Cult? Well, you got to put 4% of your trade into the treasury. So you pay the tax, you pay an entry tax, you pay an exit tax, and it puts money into the treasury. So, and again, 4.4% is like a little bit invisible. 4.4% is a lot, but it's generally less than what people think about when they buy or sell tokens. Okay, guys, so coming up next in the show, I want to talk about, if you zoom out and really view Cult DAO holistically, what really is it? In my mind, it is a reincarnation of the 2016 DAO, but is using 2022 technology. And so we'll talk about what that means. And then we'll talk about the price. The price is doing some insane stuff. Why am I doing a video on this? Am I suggesting to buy it? Absolutely not. I'll talk about details around that as to like what does it mean to have a good DAO, but a token that's slightly unrelated to it. We'll talk all about that. We'll also talk about like how Cult DAO, what its values are and what it's interested in, which I find myself very resonant with. And then we will talk about how the fundamentals of how DAOs succeed and fail outside of the true nature of their token economics. Why would a DAO succeed? Why would it fail? And how does Cult DAO fit into this? That's coming up next, right after we get to some of these fantastic sponsors that make the show possible.